one fails, you might have to reset. The game can take an incredible pace and make it look like dirt before you realize what happened. Take this run, June 10th, 2015. Everything was going right. Zallard had managed a 5 on Bob Charlie, a 7 on Dragon Shan from the low heel, and a reasonable 13 on Mad Clown. He was 3.5 seconds ahead, with more time to save later. He just had to make it through the next few fights. This is Super Macho Man, the last fight in the World Circuit. Zallard's Phase 1 strategy at the time was simple. Start with a gut punch, then counter him a couple times, throw a couple supers, and knock him down in the upper 6-second range. Macho can mess things up if he dances around, but more often than not, you should be good for a knockdown in the upper 6s. However, this fight takes a turn in Phase 2. You can get Macho to stay down for the second knockdown, but only if this knockdown comes within the following 3 seconds after the first knockdown. So, in this scenario, if your second knockdown comes at 7, 8, or 9 seconds, Macho will stay down for a KO. If it comes at 10 seconds or later, he'll get up and you'll have to knock him down a third time. This mechanic is carried across many fights in the game. So, Zallard had to go for a very quick knockdown in Phase 2. He had to throw a low super, counter in the gut, and knock him down with another low super. If Macho moves around at the start, this strategy doesn't work. If Macho does any of his 3 exercise programs, this strategy doesn't work. The only way it works is if Macho stands perfectly still for the whole phase. It's possible, but not very likely. So, what did Macho do this time?
What I thought.
He lost more than 7 seconds. A brutal blow, but the run was still technically alive. Next up, however, was Narcissus Prince, the most random fight in the entire game. Honestly, there's too many different things this guy can do to explain here. He can randomly block you, dodge you, give many different patterns, and much more. But he has the same KO mechanic as Macho, where if your second knockdown is within 3 seconds of your first, he typically stays down for good. With maximum cooperation, it's possible to beat Narcissus in the 10 to 11 second range. But there's so much that can go wrong. Anything under 15 seconds was considered a pretty good fight. But if Narcissus wants to waste time, he can make the KO impossible and essentially kill the run. And what sort of fight do you think he gave Zallard on this run?
Nice. Good. So good. Let's see here. What is that? 2173? 12 seconds. Nope.
Run over. A small mistake plus a lot of bad luck. In just 2 fights, one of Zallard's best paces ever was completely destroyed. He had just lost 16 seconds, largely due to no fault of his own. Because, you see, Super Punch-Out does not care about the record. It doesn't care what pace you're on. It doesn't care how badly you want the record. It doesn't care how well you're playing. It can take away your run whenever it feels. You can be on the run of your life, execute everything perfectly, but if you get bad luck, it's game over. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. So, 244 was where the record stayed. More months went by, with no improvements in sight. Interestingly, in August 2015, a second person managed a sub-3 when Hootie pulled off a 253. But he was far from the record. Still, Zallard at least had a little bit of competition now. In September, Zallard did shave off another couple tenths of a second, but this wasn't the multiple second improvement he knew was possible. But on September 30th, he was gonna have a chance. A second behind the record, with 6 fights to go, Zallard entered Mad Clown, needing a good fight. He ended up at 11, easily good enough. Macho, he got the good luck for a 10-second fight. Narcissus didn't mess around too much, and he was able to get the KO at 11 seconds. Suddenly, Zallard was back in the lead.
Well, then.
Next up was Hoy, who we know can be just awful. But he got no ducks in phases 2 or 3. Yet another 11-second fight, and Zallard was 2 seconds ahead with 2 fights to go. This run was on pace for a 2:41, the type of run Zallard had been looking for years. But there's one fight I haven't told you about yet. Because Nick Bruiser has a twin brother that comes right before him. This is Rick Bruiser. Rick is a really straightforward fight. There's no luck involved for the first 2 phases, and the execution isn't too hard either. You get him dizzy in phase 1, then use counters and supers in phase 2. That stuff's fine. But then there's phase 3. The entire fight is made or broken on the first punch of this phase. If this high super lands, you'll finish the fight at 11 seconds. If it doesn't, you're getting a 16, or in rare cases a 14, but more often than not, it's a 16. That's a 5-second difference. Enormous for a game like this. 5/8 of the time, the super lands. 3/8 of the time, it does not. That's all there is to it. A little over half the time, Rick Bruiser will let you through, but 3 times out of 8, he will destroy your run. So, Zallard entered the fight 2 seconds ahead. A huge opportunity, but he had the threat of a massive time loss hanging over his head. And what did Rick Bruiser do? Well, it's Super Punch-Out, played on record pace. What do you think? Zallard took a break for a few months. Nearly 10 seconds behind. So, in early 2016, Zallard came back for more. On April 14th, he had slightly behind with 4 fights to go. He had the right to save against a 14 Narcissus split, and managed a 13. Hoy was another fight with time to save, and once again he squeezed out a second. So, Zallard was ahead going into Rick Bruiser. If he would just stand still and take the uppercut, he would have a shot at the record.
We got it. Yes! 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 Yes!
Finally, Zallard had lowered the record. This wasn't the god run he was looking for. Dragon Chan gave kicks, Clown gave a 12, and the special circuit could have been better, but it was still a 243. After this run, Zallard took a step back not only from Super Punch-Out, but from speedrunning as a whole. For a year and a half, he didn't do any runs, giving other runners a serious opportunity to step in and take the record. But nobody did. Zallard remained at the top unchallenged. The closest player still being Cootie. It's quite rare to have records undisputed for this long, but Zallard's mastery of the game was far ahead of anyone else's. Finally, 18 months after his 243, he went back to attempts. It was hard to expect a record right away, since it had been so long since his last attempt. It took some time to get back into it, but he eventually started getting runs deep. Still, nothing good enough for a record. But all of a sudden, on November 29th, 2017, Zallard found himself on this run.
This is kind of stupid. Dude, if I can, there's no way. No fucking way, dude. No fucking way. What is this? What is this bullshit? Alright, Rick could totally fucking dodge me. I'm gonna miss, dude. I'm gonna miss. Fuck, dude.
One of the toughest things to do in speedrunning is executing under pressure. Super Punch-Out may be known for its randomness, but even when the luck aligns, you still have to execute. And if you don't, you're gonna get punished. Fortunately, after years of running the game, Zallard had become quite resilient, and a few months later, he had another run ahead into the special circuit, albeit not quite as far ahead. But suddenly, after managing a 10 on Hoi, the pace became much more serious. A 6-second lead late in the run, just 2 fights to go, a huge chance for redemption. Wanna guess what Rick did in Phase 3? Of course. Still, he led by about a second, and hit the counters on Nick for a small record.
That's it.
It wasn't what it could have been, but a 242 was still progress made. And on April 26th, he'd make even more progress. A 240.36. Cutting off nearly 2 seconds, this was the biggest improvement he had made to the record in nearly 3 years. But at the end of the run, Zallard didn't sound too happy about it.
Give me the unwinnable luck here, please. Please. God fucking damn it, dude. Dude. Are you kidding?
Why was that? Well, despite the improvement, this run could have been a lot better. On Mr. Sandman, he mistimed a high super to lose 2 seconds. And on Hoi, he lost over 1.5 seconds from a mistimed low super. Had he not made those errors, this run would have finished at an incredible 236. But mistakes were made, and the result was a frustrating world record. Take a look at this timeline. This was all Zallard. He had set 16 records over the course of 5.5 years. This sort of thing is very rarely seen in speedrunning. A runner can sometimes dominate for a few years, but for it to continue for this long was pretty special. Zallard had eyes for a run in the 230s, but 240 was a seriously good time. and it was gonna have to be good enough, as Zallard slowly stopped playing and didn't run the game for months. His 240 remained at the top unchallenged. But suddenly, in 2019, the unthinkable happened. A new contender began rising up the leaderboards. He became the second player to get a time under 250, and suddenly, he was just 5 seconds from the record. And he was going to try to do something nobody else had done before. Become the first Super Punch-Out single segment record holder not named Zallard 1. His name was Mystery Man 95. Mystery Man was a seasoned veteran in the Punch-Out series, running Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and holding the record in Punch-Out Wii. These games all require precise timing and rhythm, so it's no wonder he was able to adapt so easily. But there's one other thing to keep in mind about Mystery Man. He played on Wii U Virtual Console, meaning he had a few frames of input delay. Remember how you have to react to Nick Bruiser's guard? That's effectively impossible with input delay. So, Mystery Man had to just guess where Nick's guard would be and not react. This added a huge luck barrier. He'd usually have to correct the 50-50 guard position twice in a row, once in Phase 1 and once in Phase 2. He'd need to do that to have any shot at beating Zallard's record. Fortunately, Mystery Man had some strategies to help on other fights. One was on Bob Charlie. The old strategy involved 7 punches in Phase 1 where Bob could dodge any of them. Instead, he countered Bob on the 5th one and did the rest while stunning him. This cost about a second, but made it so that Bob could now only dodge the first 4 punches rather than all 7. He also did something different on Macho. By delaying Phase 1 slightly to get the knockdown at a 7 instead of a 6, the KO window shifted up to 10 seconds instead of 9. You could then delay the first punch of making a KO possible in more situations. The strategies were both developed by Chambers, and Zallard did use them for his last few records, but not the majority of them. And Hoodie had figured out something additional on Macho, ducking into a right jab to start Phase 1 to counter Macho if he dances at the start. So, Mystery Man had a chance to really pick these strats to use and see what he could do. In August 2019, with his personal best at 245, he was going to try to close the gap on one attempt.